Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today is just gonna be a slightly ridiculous reading update. I have been having so much trouble in the month of September with reading and with finishing books and with concentrating on books. I have so far, it is, the 18th of September today? I have so far DNF'd 2 books and finished 1 book. Usually by this point in the month I've finished like 4, maybe 5 if I'm lucky, but like for some reason I cannot. I don't know why. I think a lot of this is just me being completely and totally unable to accept the fact that I am in a little bit of a reading slump in the busiest month for new releases and for like exciting publishing things, which sucks. It totally sucks. And I feel like I am now starting to kind of claw my way out of this reading slump thingy that's happening. But what I tend to do is we'll do a full video on like reading slumps and how to get out of them because I feel like I'm getting pretty good at it. But what I tend to do is just before and just after a reading slump, I will go ahead and pick up like 1,000,000 books and read 1,000,000 books at once because I can't like decide on what I want to read. Some of it is complete and total panic because I subconsciously know I'm going into a reading slump, so I want to try to stave that off by reading something exciting. Usually that means reading like 10 exciting things at once. And after the reading slump, it tends to be me being excited about reading again. So I think the latter is the case here. I think that I'm coming out of this weird slumpy, not quite slumpy, I don't really know, thing that's been happening, but I am reading 6 books at once, which is a little bit silly. And I've not done any like what I'm currently reading videos because I tend to read books pretty quickly, but in this case I'm reading so much stuff. I'm just gonna share it with you guys and you can either taunt me, you can laugh at me, you can encourage me, you can tell me if you've read any of these, whatever. But these are all the books that I'm reading right now. You may have noticed in the lovely thumbnail for this video that there were only 5 books in that stack, and that is because I'm reading 1 ebook, and this is a digital review copy, and I don't quite know what to think about it. I want to finish it because I want to review it for you guys because I think it'll be a really good one to talk about and discuss, and it is a really highly anticipated release for a lot of people, including myself. I was really looking forward to this. This is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. This comes out from, I believe it's Hotter and Stoughton or Hotterscape. I'm not sure which. It might be Hotterscape in the UK. I'll double check. But this is like hailed as the return of the vampires to YA. People are super hyped. It's set in New Orleans. It's a historical fiction fantasy novel, and it sounded really great. And I really like Renee Ahdieh's writing style. I know that she's not really for everyone, but I like her writing style. I think that she really excels at kind of setting an atmosphere, and that is absolutely the case in this particular book. But I'm 30% in, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel yet. So The Beautiful takes place in historic New Orleans, and we follow a girl named Celine who has just literally in the first chapters stepped off of the boat from Europe into New Orleans to kind of start a new life. And we know that she has some sort of mysterious past. We find out pretty quickly what it is, and we find out pretty quickly, we can at least assume the circumstances of why she's done the thing that she's done, but spoilers. So she shows up and she's kind of got a place on this ship and a place in New Orleans through a convent, and she is not exactly the convent kind of gal. She is very sort of spontaneous and fiery, and she wants to explore and live and everything, but she's kind of trapped by her surroundings, and she has, through a series of circumstances, has an encounter with a young man named Sebastian, or Bastien, who is the very, very sort of, I think he's a very wealthy, I can't remember what his family does, but his family's kind of wealthy landowners. He lives with his uncle, and presumably, I haven't gotten to this part yet, but presumably he's a vampire. And we know that there are vampires in this book and in this world because there is a vampire attack. We get that person's point of view, but we don't know who they are. So Sounds really promising. I love the first chapter, the opening chapter, where she's talking about kind of seeing New Orleans for the first time and going through the streets and the heavy atmosphere is amazing. I really, really love that. However, I feel like, for me at least, and I may be at the point where this is going to change, but for me, I feel like there's something lacking with the characters. And not a lot has happened so far. I mean, we're 30% into a YA book. Usually YA books are pretty fast-paced. They kind of like keep your attention, they get going, they're really fun, I really enjoy them for that reason, but this one's a lot slower, and I'm cool with slow burning books so long as they are able to hold my interest with really good characters and things like that, which I don't know if that's happening right now, but I think that we are at a turning point in the story. I think it's gonna get better. We'll see how it goes. This is one that I'm really not sure about. I'm not gonna DNF it. I'm gonna try to finish it, but again, we'll just see. I have also decided to pick up The Crossroads of Twilight by Robert Jordan. This is the 10th book in the Wheel of Time series. The Wheel of Time series defies explanation. I cannot summarize it for you guys here, but it is a super, what we think of as tropey, sort of very classic fantasy series. I think that it's kind of a hard sell to a lot of modern readers for a huge number of reasons. I may do a Wheel of Time video at some point if you guys are interested, maybe when I finish the series. But it's amazing and I love it. I've been reading this series since 2011. So it's been in my life for quite a while. I absolutely adore it, but notoriously books 8 through 10 are the most difficult to get through. I actually quite enjoyed the 8th one. The 9th one, Winter's Heart, took me 6 months to read. So I don't have high hopes for this. This is the 3rd time I've attempted to read Crossroads of Twilight. I'm on page 30 right now. I know I'm gonna do this really, really slowly. It's gonna take a few months and that's okay. I'm very fine with that. But I want to continue Wheel of Time. I want to watch the show. I want to like get fully into this fandom again now that I know people who actually have read and enjoyed this series. So I adore these books. I know that not everyone does, with very, very good reason, I think. But if you really like that kind of classic fantasy, this is definitely worth giving a try. I'm hoping to have it done eventually. It's 823 pages of nothing happening, apparently. So the next book that I'm reading is one that is on my September TBR. Go me. First one in this list that's actually been on my TBR, although it was very low on my list of priorities in that TBR because I had so many books, so I kind of prioritized them. This was at the bottom, but I really wanted to read it. It's so fun and it just looks so good. This is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. This is of course a huge book that everyone is talking about and has had a lot of mixed reactions now that it's actually out there in the world. What page am I on? I'm on page 63. This is all one night's reading, like pre-bed reading, so that's pretty impressive. I am enjoying it. I have no idea what the hell is going on. Absolutely none. It's so weird. It's super weird. And the dialogue is weird, and the setting is weird, and everything's weird, but I'm really enjoying it. I don't really know why that is. This book follows a character named Gideon, who is kind of a quasi-member of the Ninth House, which is basically a planet in this sort of system, and it's a weird kind of almost like, it feels kind of like almost like a medieval type social structure. So you have these big houses and these lords and the people who run the houses and all of this, but it's all set in space, and Gideon is kind of the ward of this house. I don't really know how to explain it, but basically she's there, she's not a member of the family, she's pretty miserable. They're all awful because they're all necromancers. Most of them are either half dead or completely dead, and the sort of heir to the house, Harrow, is Gideon's like mortal enemy, for reasons that I'm sure we'll find out later on. And they've had a summons to do a thing, and Gideon has to for some reason go with Harrow to do the thing, and I'm not entirely clear what the thing is. I swear, it's so weird. I have no idea. This is either going to be a book that works really well for me and for you guys, or it's going to be a complete trash fire. I have no idea, but I am really enjoying the ride. I've left a link down below to like the book depository description so you can check it out and like maybe see if you can puzzle it out better than I could explain it, but it is really fun. I think it's going to be a really good read regardless of whether I enjoy it or not. I don't know. It's strange and weird, but I like strange and weird. The next book that I have is basically inspired by the only book that I've finished this month. It's by the same author, it's her new book. And the reason that I picked up both of these books is because I really needed something different. And I'm so glad I picked up both of these books. I had never read this author before, but I'm really happy I've discovered them. This is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. This is her brand new book, and The Death of Mrs. Westaway is just over there, just out of arm's reach. That is the other book that I have read by her, the only book I have read this month. So I'm only 26 pages into this. I just started this last night because my friend Amber from Books of Amber also read The Death of Mrs. Westaway kind of at the same time as me, although she read it a lot faster. And she's just finished The Turn of the Key and was like really excited about it, so I decided to pick it up too, and I'm like messaging her all of my reactions and stuff, but I'm only on page 26 at the moment. I think it's gonna be really good. I really love the way that she kind of creates atmosphere and like tension, and that's what I love from thrillers. The Death of Mrs. Westaway follows a woman named Rowan, and Rowan is not looking for a new job, but she kind of stumbles upon the dream job. She works at like one of these preschool places in London where you basically, like daycare, you drop off your kids and pick them up at the end of the day. And she discovers this ad for a very wealthy family who need a live-in nanny. It's a huge salary. It's up in the Scottish Highlands. It's gonna be this amazing house, these, you know, great kids. She has all of her expenses paid, everything. Total dream job. However, when this book opens, it literally opens with her writing letters to a solicitor saying, "Dear God, please believe me, I did not kill that child." That's how the book opens. And we don't know what child. We don't know what's happened. We don't know anything. All we know is that Rowan is writing these letters, and it's told in the format of letters. We know that she's writing these letters and that she's in prison, and she has 140 days. I think it's according to Scottish law. She can be held for 140 days without trial. So she'll have to go to trial at 140 days. She has to convince this barrister, this man, to believe her and represent her so that she doesn't go to prison for murdering a child, and everything will go from there. And I'm really enjoying it. I've just barely started this. So now we are down to my last two books, which are my two main reads. They're the ones that I'm really concentrating on in this kind of weird period of time for me. So this first one is one that I think everyone is reading, is excited about, la da da. I'm trying to get through it really quickly because I don't want spoilers. I think that spoilers are going to start coming out soon, and I am not okay with that. And I really just want to read this and enjoy this at my own pace, but I don't think I'm gonna get to do that because I'm trying to avoid spoilers. So this first one is Darkdawn by J. Kristoff. I wanted to take my sweet time with this because it's the last book in the Nevernight Chronicles. I love that trilogy. I really adore these books, but I think, as I say, that spoilers are going to start coming out soon, so I'm really annoyed with everyone who's already read this, who has like the potential to spoil something for me, even though no one has so far, so I apologize. But I'm a little bit bitter about having to like blast through this because it's something I really wanted to savor, which is rare for me. Usually I'm like tearing through books, but this is one that everyone is reading. It's one that everyone is excited for. Nevernight is a fantastic, very adult series. It's not a YA series, despite the fact that it does have a teenage protagonist, Mia, who we kind of watch her as she grows up from a young age when her family is murdered and she vows to take revenge. So she sort of goes to this assassin school. She has this sort of long, like years long plot to take revenge on the people who killed her family. And this is, of course, the final book. We know how it's gonna end because we're told at the beginning of the first book, and I really hope that J. Kristoff follows through on that. I'm sure he will. If you haven't read these, give them a try. Try the audiobooks because they're fantastic. That's how I'm consuming this. I'm about 30% in, and I think that they're just fantastic. Probably the best audiobooks I've listened to. But if you don't like gore, and you don't like graphic sex and things like that, these are not the books for you. But if you're cool with that, you should definitely give these a try if you've not read them yet. They are really, really good. They tend to divide readers, but I fall firmly into the love it camp. And the last book that I am currently reading is one that I've talked about extensively on this channel, so I will not go into it a huge amount because I'll just be saying the same things over and over and over again. But this is A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. I have been super excited about this book for a long time, ever since I found out that he was writing more books in the First Law world. I think that he's such a fantastic author. I think that although they're super, 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 super grim, super, 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 super dark, they're so funny. And they're so well written, and some of the scenes, the way that he writes them, are absolute genius. The end of the First Law trilogy is one of my favorite endings to a series ever. It's so perfect and awful and fantastic. It's so good. And I absolutely adore a lot of his characters, and I really appreciate the fact that he has loads of female characters in his grimdark books, which is not always the case. And I really love the fact that we are getting to see some of these characters 20, 30 years on, which is when this book kind of takes place. It's a little bit fuzzy. I'm not sure how long after the original trilogy this does take place, but we do get to see the offspring of some of the characters in the First Law trilogy. We do get to see some familiar faces. I'd say that it's about 50-50 completely new people. I think it's probably about 70% at least old characters, or the offspring of old characters, or characters that are somehow connected to people that we know from previous books, and maybe about 30% new characters. I think that's probably about right. I don't really know. So you can read this as its own story. You can start with this. I wouldn't recommend it. I would really recommend going back to the beginning, read The Blade itself, read that trilogy, read Best Served Cold and The Heroes, and probably Red Country. I haven't read that one yet. But you will get so much more out of this book. It's those small moments that he has where he has a throwback to a character or an interaction or something from the another book, the original trilogy or one of the standalones, that will punch you in the face if you've read them, but will just fly over your head if you've not. I think you're gonna get so much more out of these if you have read the other books. You'll probably be a little bit less confused too, because I think it does assume some knowledge of his previous books. So that is it for this video where I talk about all the books that I'm currently reading. I've not done one of these before. I've been getting a lot better about reading tons of different books at once. I usually have maybe 2 or 3 going, and that's kind of enough, but for whatever reason, probably the reading slump, I can't stick to one book. So I'm really hoping that once I finish one of them, probably A Little Hatred, I will have the kind of knock-on effect of wanting to read them all, of wanting to finish them all, hopefully by the end of September. I don't really know what's gonna happen. I don't know, we'll see. I've kind of stopped vlogging because I've not been reading enough, and when I'm not reading enough, I don't feel like vlogs are interesting because my life's not that interesting. I go to work, I hang out at home, see friends sometimes, and that's pretty much it. So I've not been vlogging, and I probably won't pick up vlogging in the same way as I did for the Newts in July. I will, if I've got interesting stuff going on, do a vlog here and there. So you might see more of these kinds of videos coming up instead of vlogs. I don't know, we'll see. Tell me what you prefer. In the comments below, let me know if you've read any of these books, if they're in your TBR, if you're excited for them, if you have some thoughts on them. I would love to hear from you. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.